Yes, we all know Brian Howard as the performer, the father, the kisser of other men. But there is another Brian Howard that no one knows. Told now for the first time is Brian's insidious story of the multiple ways he has changed, altered, and affected the very fabric of our world. It began in 1927 when Charles Lindbergh fell ill to a severe case of syphilis on the eve of his historic flight. While Brian successfully stepped in and completed the journey, an outraged Lindbergh burned all known photographs and took credit for the accomplishment. This is the only known photo to survive. Perhaps spurred on by his misdirected anger at Lindbergh, Brian set fire to the Hindenburg on a May evening in 1937. This, unfortunately, would not be the last time that Brian had blood on his hands. Brian cast off his American citizenship and rose to a top level in Der Fuhrer's army, nearly conquering the world. Perhaps troubled by his conscience, Brian soon began working for the efforts of peace, bringing together leaders from all over the world to a conference in Yalta, February 1945. Brian steered himself away from world politics and rekindled a passion for the screen. Having previously worked with the Marx Brothers, Brian began seeking out other opportunities to express himself creatively. He screen tested for Orson Welles, yet the director so much disliked Brian, he was heard screaming, "I could play the damn part better myself." Brian quickly moved back to the world of comedy, working for the Three Stooges for a short period of time, until the ripped-out hair and the pokes in the eyes just became too much for him. However, in 1963, another opportunity presented itself and Brian just couldn't resist. Becoming Miss America was literally his greatest crowning achievement. Never to be outdone, even by himself, Brian served as a backup to Neil Armstrong for the Apollo 11 moon landing crew. Though he never made it to the moon, years later Brian worked on the space shuttle program, which he found quite dull. With the pull of show business too strong to resist, Brian began making a name for himself again, this time as the lead singer of a somewhat popular musical group. Eventually, he became disenfranchised with the direction of the other lads and decided to attempt a solo career. This unique look and sound was eventually purloined by another performer who used Brian's image to achieve mega stardom. These weren't the last times, however, that Brian used his musical talents for our benefit. He made a name for himself working for Robert Weiss, which eventually led to other opportunities in motion picture roles. However, Brian was never so proud as when he opened on the Broadway stage in the role of a lifetime, as Meowie, the furball coughing cat. He also did another stint in the world of music, but if asked about it, Brian vehemently denies any participation with the Village People, mostly because it led to this. Brian returned once again to acting, this time breaking into the small screen as an iconic American figure, though it wasn't long before his passion for science fiction landed him a role on Star Trek. In fact, he was the only cast member ever to play in both the original series and The Next Generation. As a sci-fi phenomenon, Brian landed a multitude of roles that he uniquely made his own. He eventually won a part in the greatest known science fiction adventure of all time. Brian was also cast years later in the role of Yoda, but at the last minute, Lucas decided to go with a CGI character over live action. Yet, to his credit, Brian Howard is still in some of the best-known feature films ever created for the silver screen. What's next for Brian? Who can tell? He is without a doubt a man who is a puzzle wrapped in an enigma, submitted for your approval and judgment. A character larger than life, having shaped our world in ways that even he may not fully understand. Brian Howard, a true American, whatever that may be, and whoever he may truly be.